Welcome to the Green Grind Podcast, where we discuss real experience, real struggles, and real business. My name is Leroy Maines. I'm a Brilliant Borders Landscaping, and we have Corey Ballard with Perfect Cut Site Management and Ballard Independent Products. As always, we have Kaz, who's the brains of this thing, getting it from our mouth to your ears and eyes. Just a friendly reminder that the Green Grind is sponsored by Jobber and Hustler. And today, Corey and I are talking with Bryan Clayton. Bryan is the CEO of GreenPal. Bryan has been in the lawn care industry his entire life, starting with mowing neighbors' lawns in high school to ultimately founding Peachtree Incorporated, which was a market-leading industry landscape company in the Southeast, growing the firm to over 125 employees. In 2013, he navigated the successful acquisition of Peachtree Landscapes to a national provider of commercial landscape services. This is where GreenPal was born out of frustration. Bryan observed while operating in the landscape business and how difficult it is for homeowners to find, schedule, and pay a reliable small lawn care professional. Bryan's in charge of GreenPal's strategic direction and growth to become the platform to powers leading to the lawn care industry.
That was a lot.
Holy shit, that was a lot. Bryan, welcome to the Green Grind. We're glad to have you on our show today.
Leroy and Corey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a little rusty with this thing. It's been a couple weeks since we've recorded here. Corey's been traveling. I've been traveling. A lot of stuff going on. I'm having to read here and see, and we're just all out of sorts. So
yeah, if I don't make any sense today, I just grabbed a Red Bull, and we were out late last night. We've been racing a lot, so I said to Leroy, man, my brain's just not working very good today. So I'll try to navigate, but
which isn't abnormal for a lot of days.
For sure. Yeah, Bryan, I appreciate you spending some time with us today. I was kind of introduced to GreenPal a few years back with your partner Gene, so I'm kind of a little bit familiar with what you guys do, but I'm excited to learn more about the company and, of course, your background as well in the lawn and landscape business. So we'll dig in here and we'll get going.
Sure. Bryan, could you tell our listeners just a little bit about you, your background, so they know kind of who you are and kind of how you got your start?
Yeah, sure. So like you were saying in the intro, I grew up in the lawn care business. I actually started probably like a lot of your listeners, started mowing grass when I was in high school, and it was a great way to make extra cash. And I stuck with that little lawn mowing business all through high school and all through college. And when I graduated college, I had to make a decision. Was I going to be a lawn guy the rest of my life, or was I going to go into the job market? And I started doing some back of the envelope math, and I started thinking to myself, I'm going to take a pay cut if I go get a job somewhere. I might as well stick with this lawn business I had. And I had like 2 or 3 employees at the time, and made a little business plan with what little I learned in business school. And over a 15-year period of time, ended up building my little lawn care company into a real landscaping business. Eventually over 150 employees, over $10 million a year in revenue. And in 2013 was able to get the business acquired by a national company. And after that, I got bored. I took some time off, and I thought that I was going to live the good life. I thought I was just going to go live on a beach somewhere and just do investing and stuff. But that wasn't very much fun. That lasted about 3 months, and then I thought, well, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do with my life now? And I thought, well, somebody's going to build an app that works like Uber, but for the industry that I know. And I thought, well, why couldn't that be me? Why can't I do that? And it was kind of naivete as an asset. I didn't really know what I didn't know. I didn't know how challenging it would be to start a tech company, but I recruited 2 co-founders, and we started working on the idea for GreenPal, which would be an app where a homeowner should be able to order a basic lawn mowing service from a good, solid lawn care professional.
Definitely.
And from the idea that we came up with the idea to we got a product at the door was like 2 years of learning how to build software, learning how to code, learning how to hack a product together. And then now, fast forward 10 years later, GreenPal is a 10-year overnight success. Around 300,000 people using the app to get their lawn mowed every week.
Fantastic. Let's back up a little bit, Bryan, and talk about your business first. And you started similar to what I did with mine. And were you interested in selling your company? Did they keep coming to you? I'm kind of always interested. We talk a lot to guys about, they always have what's the exit strategy? Are you going to sell the company? Are you going to pass it down to your children? Are you going to, do an ESOP? Was your intention to sell the company? Were you burnt out, or was the timing just right and they kept coming to you? Because I just recently sold our company to a national company as well in October of 21. So I've just kind of went through something very similar.
Yeah. Ideally, if you're smart, you work an exit strategy. You're proactively planning this, 5 years down the road, and you're executing against that strategy. I was not very smart. I never had the intention to sell the business. In fact, I was always running it for the first 14 years of it as though I was going to run it forever. And I really believed that, but it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks one day. One thing I didn't really understand or realize that I was what I was enjoying about the business that was fulfilling me by it was that I was growing and evolving and like maturing as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as a businessman in the industry, in the business. And I think it was maybe year 12 or 13 that had plateaued. And so it wasn't like I conquered the world or anything like that, but we were like a market leader in Nashville. And I was at a point where I was going to have to expand the business to Atlanta, Chattanooga, maybe Louisville or some nearby major market. And I didn't really have the ambition to do that. I didn't have the appetite to do that. So I kind of reached like a point of stagnation in my personal life, and that began to weigh on me. And like I would start to get pissed off and irritated about the industry and the business, and I couldn't understand why. And it just hit me like, man, I think it's time for me to like start the next chapter of my life. And as a businessman, and like 15 years or 13 years at that point was long enough. And I thought, well, I'm gonna try to sell this business because I've been to the conferences and you hear the talks of this guy sold his business, this guy sold that business, and I thought, well, maybe I can get that done. And from the moment I had that idea in my head to the day that I got the wire transfer for selling the company was like 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a whole nother like level of the video game, so to speak, of challenges of taking the business down to the studs and rebuilding it from the inside out so it could be acquired by a bigger company. And in a way that was kind of fulfilling in and of itself. That was kind of like fun all over again, although very painful. It was like a whole nother set of challenges and interesting problems to solve. And got it done. And what I learned in the process was nobody ever told me this. And so maybe people listening to this can benefit from some of my mistakes. The way that you run a business that you intend to operate as a lifestyle business, or maybe you intend to hand off to your children, or maybe that you sell, is very different from one another. It's very different how you run a lifestyle versus one that you're going to exit. And and like nobody like broke it down to me like this way, but like every expense that you take on is like times 5, 6, 7, or 8, like because that's going to be like you're going to get a multiple on net profit at some point, and if you can avoid certain expenses, it's like you'll get like a 5, 6, 7, or 8 times kicker on that expense that you save. And nobody ever told me that. And so like for years I was running the business as though in my style, in the way that I wanted to run the company, and not from the spreadsheet, not from the bean counting, not from just from a financial analysis point of view. And so if you're going to ever think about selling your business, you need to start doing that today. You need to start working an exit strategy. There's a great book about this called Built to Sell, which walks you through this whole process. If I had that book in 2008, it probably would have saved me 2 years, and I might have even had double the outcome that I had.
Sure. I mean, it's a big process. And, I've even asked Leroy himself, like, what's the plan with the business? And he's like, well, maybe, sell it someday, ideally. And I think every business owner, I shouldn't say every, most business owners always have some, dream in mind that I'll sell my company someday and get this nice, pot of gold, and I'm going to ride off in the sunset, like you had mentioned. And, what I found for most guys, including myself, is, the day that money got in my account, I literally sat in my truck and actually cried for a little bit, which it wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be, because it was my entire life work, just like you. I'd started from scratch, and I didn't really have any intention of selling. The timing was just right. The numbers made sense, and kind of like you, I think I had taken it maybe as far as I could take it without really taking on a lot more financial risk, and we had grown to 2 other markets, and but yeah, you should always be building your company, I believe, with the intention of selling it, whether you're going to or not. It should be, does it run without you? And, do they only do business with Bryan, or do they do business with your company? And, what type of systems do you have in place? And can you go on a week's vacation and have your phone not ring 700 times? Can you, are you making every decision? And so I think that's really good for our listeners as well. And, I think there's a lot of guys that, they think they want to sell their company. There's also most people, and I talk to quite a few guys, that they also think their company's worth a lot more than it actually is. They're like, well, I did 2 million last year. I think it's worth 2 million. I'm like, yeah, but you didn't make any money. And to your point, you're going to get a multiple on net or EBITDA. And so then you start looking at how do you structure your expenses, and are you profitable? At the end of the day, your company's not worth anything if you're not profitable. I don't care how much top line you do. Right. Are you making money?
Yeah. I found it interesting too. You talked about the multiplier and those expenses, how they come back. And several years ago, I was thinking, people take cash for their businesses sometimes. And, we used to have people offer us cash all the time. Here's, $5,000. Do you want it in cash or do you want a check? We'll take a check just to stay above board. But, you think about that a little bit, and somebody gives you, say, $10,000 in cash. That could cost you $50,000 5 years from now if you're selling your company. And people don't think about that sometimes. And I, you said expenses, and that's the same thing. You buy this extra truck and you're taking on an additional $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, times 7, 8. That's a pretty big number to think that way for your exit strategy.
Yeah,
That's a great point.
And just to beat the point to death, I'll give you just one real quick story. And I think this will probably resonate with a lot of listeners. One year, I went to a conference for the industry. It might have been I can't remember what organization it was, but it was in Las Vegas one year. And it was my first time in Las Vegas. And I went and toured the Ferrari dealership at the Wynn Hotel. And I remember looking at the Ferrari dealership, and the goddamn thing looked like an operating room at a hospital. It was so clean. Mm-hmm. Like the floor was shined. Like the Ferraris were on like these magnificent, like gleaming looking lifts. The mechanics tool set was all organized and looked like a doctor's operating room. And I was just inspired by that, like with the precision, the cleanliness, the systems, the brand, how it all looked, how it probably felt to work there, how impressive that was to customers looking at that, and just like the overall vibe of what it might have been like to be on the Ferrari team. And I thought, man, that's really cool. And I thought, I'm going to run my business like as close to like an organization like Ferrari as possible in terms of excellence, and hope that it works out. And so we did stuff like that.
Right.
We kept our shop immaculate. The floor, we had like had 15,000 square foot building, and the floor had the dealership coating on the floor. And like we polished it maybe twice a week, cleaned it with a mop. Corner to corner, the shop was spotless, organized. And my belief as a business owner was that it all started and ended with our facility. If we were in the facilities management business, that how our facility looked like from the moment, our people left, from the moment we got back, like it started and ended there. And we set the tone. Me as the founder, I set the tone for what excellence was and what quality looked like. And it started with our facility.
Yeah, 100%, Bryan. I completely agree. I mean, that's the same deal with us. Our trucks are clean. Our shop's clean. Like, if we don't keep the standards, how do we expect our people to hold high regard if our facility's dirty and our offices are dirty and our trucks, aren't clean? It's all a part of the entire image and culture.
So you understand what I'm saying. Now, my point is this. I don't know what it cost me to do that, but it probably was 10 to 20, maybe 30 grand a year. And at sale, that cost me probably 200 or 300 grand. That one decision in terms of philosophy and how we ran our business. And I've got 15 other stories just like that. So my point is this: if I had ran the business from the spreadsheet, removed myself from it, and cut out things like that were part of my personal philosophy, what kind of culture I wanted to run, what kind of business I wanted to be a part of, and just ran it strictly from the numbers, I had a good outcome, but it would have been maybe 2 or 3x what it could have been had I had more of a clinical, cold approach towards things. So that story is, I'm sure a lot of business owners can relate to, like you said, clean trucks, not the cheapest uniform you can buy, a good quality uniform. You buy the Carhartt coat, you don't buy the knockoff coat. Things like that. Well, you start adding those things up. If you intend to sell the business, you need to start kind of thinking from the bottom line, because that's what it's all going to come down to.
Yeah, I agree and I disagree on some levels. Just because some of those things, maybe that clean shop floor, maybe, it changed the way people felt about the
It adds
job,
up.
the
It
way they
does.
felt about the quality of work they
Yep.
do. Our trucks are all blue. And I can tell you we've sat in numerous meetings where people have said, why can't we just keep our trucks white? Why do we have to buy a $50,000 truck and put a $3,500 paint job on it? What is this costing us? We had hundreds of vehicles, right? And it costs us a lot of money, but our trucks are blue. That's the truck. The brand is blue. Our trucks are blue. Our shop is clean. Same thing. So to your point, it certainly cost us money at the end because we could have, if you planned on selling, if I would have known we were going to sell earlier, we could have shaved a ton of things that would have got us this multiple, right?
Exactly. That's my only thing that nobody told me.
Right.
What, hey, if you're going to think about selling this business 5 years from now, you need to start thinking about these things.
Yeah.
And so that's why I pose it as something to consider to people listening to this show, to start thinking those things in terms of what can I afford to cut and it not be noticed.
Sure.
Because it's going to matter times 5, 6, 7, or 8 later on down the road.
Right. Absolutely. One last thing, and we'll get into the other story. But just thinking about, see, I told you my brain wasn't working very well.
Just thinking about something.
Gosh, man, I'm telling you, I got to get some more sleep. Running personal expenses through. So we've acquired numerous companies over the years, and one of the things I encourage guys to not do, and I talk to guys about this. We've looked at companies, and they say, we would have made more money, but my boat's in there, and my Corvette's here, and we took 3 family vacations, and so I know it looks like we netted 200, but we really, if you do some add backs, we netted 375, and I'm like, yeah, but we're paying on the 200. Well, I know, but you got, and so I talked to guys about this, and I can tell you, we used to do this a lot, and I hired a great CFO, probably 2008 or 9, and she came in and said, listen, guys, we're not running any personal stuff through the business anymore. If you want to just adjust your distribution or adjust your pay. And that was the best thing that ever happened, because when we went to sell, they said, hey, we're going to do a holdback because we always find skeletons in the closet. And I said, you're not going to find any, because we quit doing that. And so I encourage guys to run the books clean. And to Leroy's point about taking cash, I don't know how many times people are like, well, how much is the price if I pay you cash? I'm like, well, if I want cash, I'll just cash your check. But I want the numbers to be legit, because I want to know how profitable we are. And I want, so you want to do that. And also, again, running personal stuff through your company. I know it's a kind of a cool perk. And if it's business related, you go out to the Equip Expo and you want to take some employees, you can do that stuff. But if you run too much shit through there and you end up not being profitable, then you go and you want to buy a new facility. You want to, build a building. And you go to the bank, you're like, I know it doesn't look like we make any money, but we actually do. They're like, I don't.
Good luck.
Good luck. Right?
Yeah, the bank's not going to be real helpful.
It's hard to, or you go to a buyer and say, yeah, we're really more profitable than it looks, and they're like, listen, Joe, I don't really give a shit. You showed that you made $200K last year. I'm going to pay a multiple of 4 times that, and like, well, but my Corvette's in there. I'm like, I don't care.
But too, how well do you want to sleep at night? You get a letter from the IRS, and we've got them before, where you're being audited and they're doing a full audit. It's like, if you're hiding stuff in there, they're going to find that kind of stuff. And, how well do you want to sleep at night when doing those types of things and not get in trouble for those
Absolutely.
things? You can certainly do that. So
we won't beat that up anymore.
Yeah, that's enough of that. Bryan, let's talk a little bit about GreenPal. How did that come to where it is today? What was your thought behind the process of making this Uber for lawn care?
Yeah, it was very much born out of my own personal experience running my first business. I kind of navigated the journey that a lot of business owners in this industry do, where you start off doing everything, being everything to all people, doing whatever you can get your hands on, and then you refine a client base, and then maybe you start getting into commercial work, and then by the time it was all said and done, we were 100% commercial, like most businesses at that scale, but we would still get phone calls every day. Maybe as many as 100 phone calls a day from people in the Nashville market saying, hey, I see your trucks all over the place. Will you come cut my grass next week? And we're like, well, no, we actually don't do the $40, $50 lawn mowings anymore. We do shopping centers, apartments, office parks, things like that. But we always had a value in how we ran that business to be helpful no matter what, because you never know. That person could want a big, renovation job later on down the road, or they themselves could be a facilities manager for a big company or something like that. So you never know. So we always wanted to be helpful. We wanted to help everybody that called into the front office, and so we would keep a list of names and phone numbers of smaller operators, smaller providers, people that were just getting started in the business, Maybe they were like one-man bands, and they wanted these business these referrals. They wanted this type of work, and so we would always say, well, we can't help you, but here's 5 or 6 numbers that can. And what would happen is like half the time they would call us back and they would say, hey, I called all those guys and left a bunch of voicemails and nobody called me back. Do you have any other numbers? And so it would like no good deed goes unpunished. And so I saw like firsthand that there was a disconnect in the market for people that just need a basic service, not spending $5,000 a year on landscape maintenance, spending more like $1,000 a year or $500 a year. And the small operators that want that type of business. And it was hard for these two people to do business with one another, a lot harder than it should be. And that it should, in 2014, when we started, should be as easy as just pushing a button on your phone. And as a contractor, servicing those inquiries sucks. It's hard. Like you got to drive out there, give an estimate. Maybe you might win the $35, $40 job. Maybe you don't. And then you do it. And then maybe you might get paid, maybe you don't. And even if everything goes well and they have you do it one time, you actually probably lost money on that job.
Right.
And so that's why nobody wants to mess with them. And so I saw that there was problems on both sides of this transaction that could be solved with an operating system that made it really super easy for contractors to quote these properties, batch them together in terms of like 50, 100, 200 of these a week, whether they're on weekly or every 2 week schedules, and through efficiencies in technology could actually package them up and make them more profitable from like a labor hour perspective than your big 6-figure contracts that everybody is killing themselves over. Yeah. And so that was like the original thesis, the original idea. There was a problem on the consumer side, on the demand side, and there was a problem on the supplier side. And that we could make an operating system to where it was easier to conduct business on the platform versus not. And it took about 3 years to build a platform that solved problems at the same time for both parties. And it took about 5 years to get good at it. And now we're 10 years in, it's still day one. We're still making it easier, faster, more convenient to order those services, and making it making it easier and more convenient for contractors to pick those jobs up, put them on their existing routes, get paid within 24 hours of picking them up, and making it to where it's easier to do business on the GreenPal platform than not for this particular type of use case.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I can tell you in our experience, we very similar path. We did a lot of residentials at one point. We got completely out of the residential market, just like you guys. And same deal. Our phone rang all the time, and it was good. Some of them were good clients, good locations. Could have been $70, $80 residential cuts. Could have been the 35 cuts. Could have been people just going on vacation. Can you do me for 2 weeks? And we did
help them.
And we did what you guys did. So we would have 3 or 4 people. We would give them, hey, call these 3 or 4 people. And then the challenge we got was they wouldn't call them back, which was the same thing you just mentioned, or they would hire one of them, they'd do a bad job, and they'd call and say, hey, you referred Jim's Lawn Care, and Jim did a shitty job. And I'm like, so we ended up having to go away, Bryan, completely. I said, let's quit referring. We just said, unfortunately, we no longer service residential. We're just not able to take care of you. And so we had to go completely away from referring anybody because I felt like it was tarnishing our reputation a little bit to give them names of people that wouldn't call them back, or if they did a poor job, and so we had to completely go away from it, which was frustrating because customers would say, you can't give me anybody's names, and we're like, unfortunately we no longer do that because we're just not able to control the quality. We're not able to control if they get back to you. So 100% agree. We've talked about it numerous times. There's a huge market out there, and you hear this a lot too. I mean, the residential market, there's no money in residential. I'm like, that's not true. There's companies that just do residential. They're really, really good at it, and they're profitable. But that's got to be how you're set up, how your business model's set up, what's your crew size, what's your route density, what's your pricing structure, what equipment are you using. There's a lot of factors in that too. So there is a huge disconnect, and it's been there forever.
Yeah, we just had that conversation with Nolan down in I think he was in Austin. He does 1,200 accounts,
1,200 residentials.
Yeah, 1,275 or 1,175 a week. So
yeah.
So you can certainly do it with residentials. But and this I think makes a lot of sense. Bryan, tell our listeners, and I was on your website yesterday checking this whole thing out. You guys are not in a Des Moines area, or I would have had a thing in there. Tell our listeners how this actually works. It's a pretty slick system, really.
Yeah, for the consumer, they sign up, they pop their address in, they get 4 or 5 quotes back in a minute or two for a basic weekly or every 2-week lawn mowing, edging, weeding, blow, not bed maintenance or shrubs or mulch or anything like that, but those services can be quoted later on down the road if they want to add those on. For the contractor, when the homeowner signs up, the contractor is sent a text message. They said, hey, there's a lawn, 5 miles away from you. Do you want to take a look at it? And you click the link and you can see aerial imagery of it, street view imagery of it. We pull down the square footage of it. And then whatever data they've uploaded in terms of how long it's been since they last mowed it, what their preferences, what they're looking for, if they're looking for weekly or every 2 weeks. And then you can quickly quote that for free right there on the platform. Rather than having to drive out there or email them a quote or text them a quote, you can just quote it right there. And then if the consumer likes the price, they'll hire that person, and then it's put on your schedule along with all of your other properties. And you go out there, mow it, you upload a picture of it, and then it's billed and to their card that day. And so it's like an end-to-end solution where you go from as a consumer, I don't know anybody, to now I have pricing. Now I've got somebody scheduled and I've paid them, and I can set them up for every 2 weeks or every week, and it's kind of set it and forget it. And as a contractor, it's kind of like one operating system to get new customers, get them on your route, put them in your CRM, and then get paid quickly. There's no accounts receivable on the system. You're paid daily for the work that you do. And that's one of the main pain points that we solve for contractors, particularly in the residential market. Like the lawn guy's the last guy to get paid in the house of stack of household bills. And so we help solve that to where, you don't have to run a 30, 60, 90 days accounts receivable for residential clients. You just get paid on the fly, which is a big important thing.
Yeah. So do you guys do it then? So you set it up, they can do it weekly, they can do it bi-weekly. Is there just like a one-time thing, or can they sign up for an entire year with your service? How do you guys handle that?
Yeah, it's something that we've experimented with ad nauseum. So ideally, the expectation when you say you're the Uber for lawn care, the expectation for consumers is, well, they should be able to order it like an Uber, like literally like just order one mowing at a time. Thursday, I think I'll have the grass cut today, and then just order it. And that's the expectations that consumers have in 2023. I want groceries from Instacart. I'll just order some for this afternoon. They feel like they should be able to order a lawn mowing that way. Well, that's not the way the real world works, and so we have to educate the consumer that, okay, you can use it for one cut, but that's like an audition. And if you like how it went, you need to set it up for an ongoing cadence until the end of the year. And if you don't want to do that, GreenPal ain't for you, because we don't want to run these vendors all over town on these one-time lawn mowings, because they're going to get sick and tired of it real quick. And if vendors don't love it, then we don't have a system or a platform or a problem that we can solve for consumers. So it has to start with vendors. They have to love it. They have to be getting ongoing clientele on an ongoing route. And if we can't solve for that, then we don't have a product.
Sure.
So we spent years beating our head against the wall trying to come up with the right balance between what consumers want and expect and what will actually build a solid business for vendors. And that's where we've landed on is you can use it one time as an audition, but then after that you have to set it up for an ongoing cadence.
Bryan, what keeps, I know Leroy has some questions about qualifying these vendors but what keeps the vendor from going out to Mrs. Smith's house and does the one cut and he says, hey, we can just bypass this whole GreenPal thing. I'll just take care of you weekly. And, instead of 45 a cut, we'll just do it for 40 a cut. We'll just bypass this whole thing. They signed up for the one, they pay you guys, and now they just bypass the whole GreenPal process or system. What keeps that from happening other than, I assume you guys have some, venting of the vendors. So how does that work to keep the system, I guess, ongoing and you guys don't get kicked out of the whole process?
Yeah, it's a great question. most platforms like an Airbnb or an Uber or an Instacart would deal with this kind of problem with like a heavy hand, like a top down type of thing. Oh, it's against your T's and C's, or it's against the rules, or whatever. And we learned early on that if that's happening, that's indicative that we're not adding enough value. Why would somebody want to do it the old way? If they want to do it the old way after using GreenPal, then we've got a problem. Like, we're not adding enough value. We're not solving enough pain. And so the first thing is it's the fees are like super cheap. It's only 5%. So you're talking like a couple of bucks as the vendor. And so let's just say you did want to do that as a vendor. You're the consumer then has to make the decision. Okay, well, like, I'm going to save $2 a mowing by doing this the old way, and I got to go back to the headache of like the disappearing lawn guy and like wrangling your ass every week. Like, no thanks. Like, I'm not going to do that. and so it's like the fees are so low that it doesn't make sense to do it the old way anymore. After you've experienced it as a consumer, and also hopefully as a vendor, now you've got, like, you went from 0 customers now to over 100 in 6 months, and it's all in one place. It's all on one route. You're getting paid on a daily basis. You don't want to jeopardize that. You don't want to like put that into question. And so we start with becoming like the operating system for smaller contractors, where they have one place to run their whole business, and as a really convenient way for consumers to do business with them. It's kind of like, if you take a Uber ride to the airport, and the Uber driver like pulls off on the side of the road just before the exit and says, "Hey, cancel this on your app, and you can just pay me cash, and we could each save $2." like you would never, that would never happen. And like, so we strive for that type of experience where it just would not make sense to do it the old way anymore.
Yeah, I would think for the vendor especially, because I think some of Leroy's questions on here were, we're about payment, because, you go the old way, and now you're invoicing once a month, and now you're getting paid 60, 90 days later if you're getting paid at all. And the whole process is muddied up for minimal savings. And again, to your point, these guys are able to build a nice residential customer base with your technology.
Right. Now I will say this, there's two, in 2014, the whole Uber for X phenomenon blew up. So you had Uber for home cleaning, Uber for laundry service, Uber for car washing. And so like there was billions of dollars of venture capital thrown at all of these ideas. And there were 5 ideas kind of like ours that were also funded. We didn't raise any outside capital. So we've had to kind of like build this slow and low for a long time, one customer at a time. But the ones that did raise a bunch of capital all went out of business or consolidated into now a couple of other kind of Uber for lawn care types of platforms. Now, they take, I think, something like 25, 35%. So you're talking about a $50 cut. There is a big space there. And like, you're only getting paid, $29 on that. And I've heard other vendors say that they look at those properties that come down the pipe as like a paid sales appointment. Like they will go do it one time, and then they are there explicitly to convert them into like an analog business off platform. And so I think if you take too much of it's a rake too far. Like if you try to take too much of the transaction, then it makes economic sense to do that. But we've purposely kept fees super low, so it just doesn't make any sense to save a couple bucks.
Certainly.
Boy, this is pretty smart. My wheels are turning over here just thinking like, in bigger markets, you're getting paid to mow grass in bigger markets, and you're not doing, this is pretty cool. I like it.
I like it.
How do you vet your guys that go mow the grass? How do you know they're insured? I'm assuming you make sure that they have insurance, that they're not cons, that they're not on, offenders list, those different types of things. How are you vetting these guys, making sure that they're reputable and they're actually going to show up and do the proper work?
In the early days, it was very much hand-to-hand combat. It was one at a time. Like the first 500, maybe even 1,000 contractors that used the platform all had my cell phone number. And so it was very much face-to-face interviewing and personally checking all of these things. And then as time went on, a couple of things happened. We were able to build our own systems out, but now there are third-party platforms that integrate into ours to where we can quickly check these people out as they're onboarding. And so, yeah, the vetting has evolved and gotten to be self-serve and automated over a decade. But that's like a drop in the bucket. You would think you vet somebody and you're good. It's actually like just because somebody's got insurance and it passes a background check and has a bank account and a social security number, these are not indicators that they will be a good lawn care service operator at all. And so it's like, so that just gets you to the starting line. And so from there, we then have to rigorously like score the performance of these operators to then understand, okay, who do we promote on the platform and who do we demote, and then who do we expel? And it's kind of our job as a platform to kind of be a coach in their pocket, because the reality is nobody teaches us how to run a small business at all, anywhere. Like you're not taught this in school. Even if you go to business school, you're not taught how to run a business. So like nobody knows how to run a business. And for many people, their first exposure to running a small business is a service-based business like a lawn mowing company or a home cleaning company or a construction company or something like that. And so they're going through the school of hard knocks of like bumping into customers and pissing customers off and doing things the wrong way to learn, hopefully learn, how to be proactive, how to be organized, how to build a brand, how to take care of clients and so on. And like, so they're learning through trial and error. And it's our platform's job to reduce those failures and to encourage and almost teach new business owners in the green industry what it means to run a reliable, proactive, quality business. And so we have to quickly do that and promote and teach the good ones. And then the ones that aren't taking it seriously, that just aren't putting their blood, sweat, and tears into it, demote and expel them out of the platform. And so we measure things like how often do they show up, on time? Like how often are they there every week? We understand rain's going to happen and stuff, but like you can't let your customers go hanging for 10 days. And so we score that. We score things like how often do you get booked for a second and third and fourth mowing?
Right.
Because if that starts dropping off, it kind of indicates that you're not very good. And then also like scoring like how often do consumers report that you ghosted them, that you just didn't flat out respond to their text messages or phone calls and things like that. We score that. We understand that. And then also like your standard 4 or 5 star, 3-star rating system. We have that built into the platform as well. So all of those signals, we're then able to understand, okay, these are the good small lawn care services in Tampa, Florida, and these are not the good ones. And so then you have a little bit of pricing power as a small business owner. Now you have this place where all of these signals have accumulated about you, and you have reputation, and now you have a little bit of pricing power versus the old way of maybe a phone call off of Yelp or something. Maybe you've got some stars there, but you don't have all of this rich data to then sell your service on and maybe price a little bit better. So we do that to offer that one touch, almost like ordering off of Amazon experience for consumers, to hire somebody, get it done, and then give operators an ability to accumulate all of these positive signals about their business so they can win new business and hopefully get a little bit of pricing power while doing it.
Certainly. So do your guys that have the highest rating, do they have basically first opportunity? So if there's, a request for service, lawn cutting, and, there's 3 or 4 providers in that area in Tampa, right? Does the guy with the highest rating get kind of first opportunity, or do they all get the same message at the same time? Is there some preference there for the guys that are your highest quality or highest rated guys?
Absolutely. It is tiered. So,
yep.
So let's say Tampa is a very competitive market for us. We have probably 40,000 consumers that use the platform there. And so somebody signs up, they'll get 5 quotes back in 60 seconds.
Wow.
And so it goes through a tiering section. So the first blast of messages is sent to our most highly rated service providers, and then it goes down from there. Now, there's some markets where it's not as competitive. Like we're not as big in a Seattle, Washington. We do more transactions in Knoxville, Tennessee than we do Seattle, Washington. I can't figure it out. I don't know why. But like if you're in Seattle, man, you can take your time and clean up. Same thing with Detroit. Like we have a lot of customers, a lot of consumers in Detroit, but it's not as competitive as an Atlanta, Georgia. And so it does go through like a stair step process in terms of opportunities. We naturally want to reward
Absolutely.
Right.
the vendors that are taking it seriously, that are taking the business seriously. They want to do a good job for their clientele, and they want to prosper in this business, and we want to reward that type of business owner.
Absolutely.
So when you do that, then when it goes back to the consumer, and they say they get the 5 quotes in the 60 seconds, and say, Perfect Cut is at $75 a cut, Brilliant Borders is at $80 a cut, something else is at $60 a cut. Do you say, hey, well, Brilliant Borders is more expensive because they're the best out of the 3? This guy's second. Do your consumers know that when they're getting those bids back versed on pricing?
It's our job to operate almost like a stock market in terms of price discovery. And so, like when you buy a stock on a stock market, like that is what that piece of that company is worth, because this is what buyers and sellers have agreed on that it is worth. And so, like, while we don't have that much liquidity, we're trying to like offer that type of price discovery in this simple chore that people need to get done. Mm-hmm. And so as a consumer, you've got 5, let's just say you get 5 quotes, and you say, okay, well, this guy's $80 a cut. He shows up 92% of the time on the day he gets hired. He gets booked 78% of the time again. And he's got 1,400 stars, 1,400 reviews, and like a 4.9. This other guy's $25 a cut. He's got a 20% reliability rating. He's got a 3.8 star. But you know what? This is for a rental property. I actually don't give a crap what it looks like. Right. I'm going to go with the $25 cut guy. This is for my new home I just built in the upscale part of town, or whatever. Like this is, and I got a dinner party this weekend. I got to make sure it gets done Thursday. I'm going to go for the $75 cut. So it's our job to offer that price discovery and the ability to match what consumers want with what vendors' performances are. Is what our platform does.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's awesome that you said that, because I'm thinking, if I got a rental property and I got a tenant moving in, I just need the grass cut. I don't really, I just need it mowed, trimmed, and blown off. I don't really care. I don't need the guy with the 5-star. I don't need it striped, and I just need that baby cut. Maybe.
And you don't want the guy who wants to come out and walk it with you and give you all these upsells and stuff. Like you literally want Chuck in a truck or Molly in a mower. I say Molly in a mower. We've got a lot of female-led businesses that are kicking ass on our platform, and you just want a mow and blow. But let's say this is your personal residence, and you take pride in what it looks like. You want to spend a couple $1,000s a year on landscape maintenance. Well, then you want that top tier experience, and so it's our job to offer you those options.
Right, Bryan. Do you guys do? Because I was thinking too, we were talking before we went with you, before you got on, but I was like, man, snow removal is one of the things that I know a couple guys have talked about, like, in the snow market where, most guys, let's say they just like to shovel and they get 2-3 inches, but you get 10, 12 inches and it's like, hey man, I wish I could just get a guy one time just to get this thing cleaned out. Is that something you guys have explored as well?
Yeah. So we do offer this same system. We have built it all over again for snow.
Okay.
So you would think that you could just like Uberize anything, and like you could use the same system and port it to certain things, and that it would just like work. But the reality is like snow business and lawn mowing business are like two totally different businesses. Right. Even though some of the customers are the same and some of the companies are the same, it's literally like it's almost like home cleaning and lawn mowing. They are two totally different businesses. So we had to build a whole separate system, and it works in tandem with our same login, same dashboard, same everything. And the reason why we did it wasn't because it was like some kind of money-making opportunity for GreenPal. It really was a couple of reasons. We wanted for our contractors to have some way to make extra money during the off season, because our business was flatlining during December, January, February, and so especially in the northern markets. So we wanted, quite frankly, to lend a hand for these folks to survive the off season, and so they would be there in the spring, because where we prosper is off of your ongoing mowings, right? And so we built it for that, and then we also built it for PR. The media loves talking about the big snowstorm. Loves talking about the snow apocalypse that's coming, and so a part of that is, hey, but guess what? Now there's an app for that. You can push a button, and GreenPal will help you get hooked up with somebody who can plow your driveway. These are great media opportunities for GreenPal to brand, helps us stay in kind of the news cycle, helps us with SEO and things like that. So literally that's why we did it. We don't make any money off of it. I mean, we do charge a transactional fee, but it's like half of 1% of what we make off of mowing.
Sure. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. Bryan, what you mentioned earlier about getting a technology company off the ground and how difficult it was. How difficult really was it? Corey, you've mentioned, trying a software at one point and the struggles that you guys have had with it as well too. What did you not anticipate? And I'm sure some of, you're talking about the bad partners that you've had, I'm sure you probably get there and the grass is 2 foot tall in some of these areas. What things did you not anticipate with the technology company trying to get it off the ground coming from the green industry?
The main thing that is a million things that make it hard, but the technology piece, learning how to code, learning how to build software is really hard. And that's what I thought was going to be the hard part. But what I didn't understand was it's very different inventing a brand new product from scratch and then getting people to find out about it and use it and keep using it versus just running a traditional business. Like here, I ran a 150 person, 8-figure landscaping company and sold it. And now here I got my chest puffed up high and I think I know everything there is to know about business. And then I start this technology business. I realized I didn't know shit. And I realized I didn't know the first thing about how to invent a brand new product from scratch. And it was like 10 times harder than I ever thought it was going to be. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like, let's say you wanted to go start a rock band and you didn't know how to play the guitar. You didn't know how to sing. You didn't know how to write a song. You didn't know how to do any of these things. And so you devote your whole life to learning how to play the guitar, you get a vocal coach, you learn how to sing, you somehow learn how to write music, and you cut an album and you become a pretty good guitar player, and now you got a band and like you're working your ass off. And then you come to find out that all of that was the easy part.
Right.
The hard part is actually getting somebody to show up to a show, and getting somebody to give a shit about your music and to give a shit about buying your album. And like that's 100 times harder. Well, that's what a technology business basically is. Like you learn how to code, you learn how to design, you learn how to do all of these technical things, and like that's excruciatingly hard. And then you think you've done it, and then you realize no. The hard thing is actually getting people to find out about it, getting people to try it, getting people to use it, getting people to keep using it. That's 10 times harder, 100 times harder. Yeah, and that was the thing. That was the thing I didn't.
Yeah, that's the same thing about products we've been talking about. We had a guy on. I'm in the product business as well, and I think people think that creating the product's the hard part. I'm like, no, actually creating the product's the easy part. Then you got to figure out how to manufacture it, market it, sell it, warranty it, customer service, ship it. I mean. And I think people, they get a product like, man, I did I got it patented. I got this product. I'm like, shit, that's easy. Now what are we going to do? What are we going to do with it? Now you got to sell it.
Yeah. It's actually a consumption process, creating a product. You're spending money creating this thing. Now the hard part is the distribution and getting it into people's hands. And like you said, warranting it, servicing it, that's the hard part. And really the distribution piece of it is the hardest thing. This is why, love it or hate it, but the world we live in now where, people like Logan Paul and Kim Kardashian can just walk into $100 million business and life ain't fair. Why do you think, well, you can get pissed off about that, or you can realize that they are bringing the distribution.
Right.
And that's why they are worth that. And so the distribution piece of it is the hardest part. This company can be in the energy drink business for 20 years. You never heard of them. Then Logan Paul comes and they start this energy drink thing.
Prime,
$100 million.
Yeah, he's killing it.
Killing it. And it's because they combined the manufacturing with the distribution piece of it. That's a lot harder. And I did not know that when I started GreenPal from basically inventing a new product. I didn't know that was the hard, challenging part. So I like to talk about that so people can listen to my experience with it and say, and understand if you sign up for this type of thing, that's what's going to be the hard part of it.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense too. So Bryan, how when you go into a market, I know you said Seattle, Tampa, I mean, you're all over the country from what I could see on your website. How do you market that? So not only do you have to market to consumers, you somehow have to market to lawn care companies as well. So you're kind of marketing to double. How do you guys go in and market this stuff to all these guys? I'm obviously online somewhere, but I would see more of the service provider, a guy like me, I would think that would be more difficult to market than even to the consumer that's using the product.
I was thinking both of them. I'm like, how does the consumer even know that it exists? And then again, how does the vendor know? Because how many guys ask, how do I get more lawns?
Right.
Well, shit, you sign up with
Yeah,
GreenPal.
right here.
That's
Get on GreenPal.
You sign up with GreenPal, they're gonna give them to you. But how do they know?
Promo code is Green Grind.
Yeah. How do you?
There you go.
How do you reach the consumer and the vendors? I mean, that's got to be tough.
In the early days, it was very much ground and pound. So like I told you, the first 1,000, now we have 32,000 grass cutting services that use the platform, but the first 1,000 all had my cell number. And like the first 100, like, cause the platform really sucked in the early days. Like it didn't have like a fraction of the features it needed. It was clunky. And so it was very much like a leap of faith for anybody in the business to use it. And so what I would do was I would say, listen, I just sold this business, and oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, okay. So I was a little bit of a known commodity, and I said, I will give you free coaching on how to run and grow a landscaping company for the next 2 years if you would just use this platform to bid, win business, and complete transactions. And if you will do that and kind of work through the rough edges alongside with me, I will give you free coaching. And that worked. That worked for the first 2 markets. And so then we didn't have to worry about the supply side for the first 2 markets. And we just focused only on the buy side, on the consumer side. And okay, so how do we reach these folks? Well, we can reach them through Google SEO, we can reach them through Google AdWords, we can reach them through Facebook ads and so on. And we just began experimenting with the dozen good ways that you can reach consumers when they need a lawn mowing service. And basically came to the resolution that organic SEO was the best channel for us, and that we needed to start figuring out how to compete in that. And then that's when we came to the realization that competing in organic SEO was actually going to be harder than building the whole goddamn product to begin with.
Right.
like however hard all of this was, like building this system to go get bids, schedule people, process the payment, I'll book them through marketing automation, keep all of that straight, like millions and millions and millions of lines of code handwritten to make that happen. That was the easy part as compared to, okay, how do we rank for lawn mowing Lincoln, Nebraska? How do we rank for grass cutting service Chicago, Illinois? That was 10 times harder. And so we just started like eating the elephant one bite at a time. Our third market was Atlanta. Can't compete for lawn care Atlanta, but we can compete for lawn mowing Marietta, Smyrna, Georgia, Riverdale, Alpharetta. So we started building all of these markets from the ground up, where when people were searching on Google, that they would come across our landing page and try out our product. And little by little, building it from the ground up is how we started to get some transaction, and consumers actually liked it. They thought, yeah, this is actually easier than doing it the old way. And our, the one service provider we had in Smyrna, Georgia was cleaning up. Now they got 50 new customers. They were liking it. And so in those early days, we were like, man, I know we've only got like 100 customers, but it's working.
Right.
And if we could just keep stamping this out, there's 10,000 Smyrna, Georgias in the United States. If we can make it work in one of them, we can make it work in all of them. And so that's how we did it, and just did it little by little, one municipality at a time.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm actually just disappointed I didn't think of this.
I've decided that I don't want to be in the technology business after this conversation.
No, but it makes perfect sense. And I was just also thinking, the consumer doesn't know what they're Googling or what they're looking for if they don't know that even exists either.
Hey, listen, everybody, you can say, oh, man, why didn't I think of that? Every time I see you hawking a lawnmower blade on Facebook, I'm like, I should have done that, because that's easier.
It's not easier, Brian. I promise you. I do get that though. Like I could do the same thing you're doing. I'm like, go fucking do it then. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
You know what I should have done? I could have sold.
Should have made your own shoot blocker.
Yeah,
yeah.
No, but I know
grass is always greener.
I know that this is a huge. This thing's a monster. And so, how many? I'm kind of curious. You mentioned 32,000 vendors. How many customers are using GreenPal like in a week or a month? And is it I assume it's a crazy number, right?
Yeah, over 300,000 homeowners using it on a weekly basis.
Wow,
to get grass cutting.
Fantastic.
Now that started with ended our first year with 20 people who would keep using it. And we set a goal for, okay, we got 20, and half of them were like my friends and family. We got to,
Mom.
we got it. Literally, my mother, my brother, like, kind of funny. My best friend at the time, he had just bought a house, and I'm like, hey man, awesome, sweet, you just bought this house. I got this shitty app I just built. I really need people to use it because I need for you to test it and let me know like where I need to improve it. And so let's get you signed up. And he goes, yeah, man, the guy that I hired the other day, I told him about it. He didn't really want to use it. So we're just, I'm just going to hire him. I'm like, bro, did you not hear what I said? I just started this new thing.
Yeah.
I need for you to use it. He's like, yeah, man, I'm just going to use this guy. Like, I literally stopped being that guy's friend after that.
Yeah,
like, it was
not,
like
you said he used to be my friend.
Yeah.
This guy I used to be good friends with. Like, listen, dude, you got to use my app. Like, just use my fucking app.
Yeah.
I need you to use my app.
But that's how it starts. When we, what were we getting the first time? Like 150 listeners or something. And I think
when we first started
40 of them were my mom listened like 40 times, and yours listened 30 or something.
Like, thanks,
so that was
Mom.
half of them.
I'll start.
That's why we laugh. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. And it just makes, to me, it makes a ton of sense for all these small guys. We had talked about, just the industry in general, and there's millions of operators out there that are small operators. They can make a great living doing lawn care. Whether they got one or two crews or it's a mom and pop operation. But, we get this all the time, like, how do I get customers? I'm like, man, there's so many different platforms out there that will make this easier for you. And if I was a small guy running one or two crews and I wanted to build my residential route and I'm in a market that GreenPal's in, I'm like, this makes perfect sense for me. I think one of the questions you had, though, Leroy, was like, I guess the pricing, which we've addressed, because it's not a race to the bottom. Because I would think most guys are like, well, I'm going to be getting these $35 cuts. Well, not necessarily. It's not a race to the bottom. It's not a pricing game, because we hear that a lot. Like, nobody in my market, every lawn's $35. I'm like, no, they're not. They're not all $35.
Right. Well, and the thing that really makes a lot of sense for, I think, for some of these guys is the fact that they don't have the accounting side on the back end of the thing. That's where so many of these guys fail. They can get out there, they can get the grass cut, but then they don't have either the common sense or the time to sit down and build this out. Then they do get it built out and it goes to 90 days and they forgot about it. And it's just, sometimes you just, oh, fuck it. It's $150. We don't need it. It's not worth it. And this
There's
takes
so much work that gets done for free that people don't even know about.
This completely takes care of that problem. Or forgetting to bill something. Yeah. So
that's right.
Yeah. Great product. Bryan, one of the questions we ask everybody that comes on the Green Grind, and we're going to ask you as well too, what is the best business advice you've ever been given?
Oh man. Build once and sell twice. So what I mean by that is try to look for ways. Doesn't matter what business you're in. If you're selling green industry products, if you're selling landscaping services, if you're selling technology products like me, try to figure out ways to build once and sell twice. Build systems, build processes, build things that you can scale. One of the things that was eye-opening for me when I started GreenPal, because I kind of had to like reinvent myself as a technology entrepreneur, and I started looking at all of these like off-the-shelf systems that I could have put into my landscaping business, and I didn't, because I was too lazy to do it. I was too lazy to figure it out. I was too lazy to implement it, and there was all of these ways I could have made my life so much easier, whether it had been a payroll system or a better employee training system. One of the things I always like beat my head against the wall was like employee turnover. And I just thought there was something mysterious about how we did things, and it should just take 6 months to train a lawn tech. And when in fact I could have like used a good off the shelf employee training system and created my own like lawn care university and trained somebody in 6 days rather than 6 months and solve that problem. But I was too lazy to invest the time, maybe 20 hours to build that. And so like that's an example of build once, sell twice. Once you have that system in place, you got lawn care university in place. Now you can get like highly qualified trained technicians in place quicker than anybody. Now you've got a system in place that gives you competitive advantage. And if you keep doing that over and over and over again, you can build a strong kind of fortress of a business rather than one that is just you playing whack-a-mole all day long, solving problems, through brute force.
Absolutely.
100%.
That's awesome. Bryan, tell our listeners where they can find GreenPal. If they're interested in being a vendor for you guys, where do they find website, Instagram, Facebook? Where do they find you guys?
Yeah, anybody wants to sign up, just go to greenpal.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, click apply as a vendor. We got a waiting list in most markets, but just check it out. There's a lot of places where there's not a waiting list.
That's awesome. Good for you guys.
Sign up. You can get signed up real quick. And anybody wants to hit me up, Instagram is the best place to reach me, Bryan M. Clayton. Just drop me a DM there.
Fantastic, Bryan. Well, this has been awesome, man. You guys have a great business model. I know it wasn't easy, and nothing worth having is, so that's awesome. Guys, we drop a new episode of The Green Grind every Tuesday. If you want to be a guest or you know somebody that wants to be a guest, if you go to the Ballard website, you'll see the Green Grind logo. Just click on that. It'll shoot me a direct email. It makes my job a little bit easier. We certainly appreciate Jobber and Hustler for being our sponsors. This has been great, Bryan. We wish you guys the best. I think you're going to just keep kicking ass. The industry continues to grow. They're building houses every single day, everywhere, and these people are going to need your services, moving forward. So awesome.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on our show, Bryan. We really appreciate you being on today.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I had fun.
Thanks a lot.